Welcome to the 2024 Love Out Loud Community Transformation Lunch. I'm Danielle Lamphier. I have the pleasure of serving on the board of Love Out Loud, and I want to welcome all of you all here today. I also want to thank our sponsors, without whom this day would not be possible. First off, our community champion, Dr. Gary Chapman and New Salem Counseling, our community advocates, Wells Fargo Advisors, the Chase and Combs Private Wealth Management Group, the Bud Group, Flow Companies, and Terry and Christy Williams. In addition to that, our community boosters, the YMCA of Northwest North Carolina and Novant Health. In addition to that, I want to thank our generous table sponsors who are also with us today. As I look out upon this room at the diverse partnership that we have here, we have almost 300 folks in this room representing a very diverse cross-section of our community. Community leaders from our faith organizations, community organizations, local businesses, and many, many others. Diverse group of people here from many age groups and different parts of our community. I remember back to the first time that I enjoyed a cup of coffee with Chuck Spong, who I'm sure many of you all have also enjoyed at Cranky's on a Thursday morning. That was over 10 years ago, and enjoyed that morning actually with several of you here today. And it just reminds me of what an amazing 10 years that has been and what amazing dreams are ahead of us.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have to be the bad guy again and interrupt, but we also are committed to you to get you out the door by 1 p.m. And we're excited to share some what we believe will be meaningful stories, content, and really a vision for our whole community. So thank you for being here today. We're glad that you are here for our 5th annual community luncheon. Some of you were here at our first one, which you may recall was February 11th, 2020. Yes, that is right. It was a few weeks before the shutdown. And thanks to you all's engagement and generosity that day, it very much positioned us to live into our potential to catalyze, connect, and support all kinds of efforts during the pandemic. Things like food, we were able, in partnership with Second Harvest and the Ministers Conference and many other partners even in this room, to serve 300,000 meals during that season of about 6 months. 70,000 masks that we worked with Don Flo and Mask the City to distribute with 192 community partners, and then conversations around remote learning centers. Those 3 things really were where we put our focus that year, and you were a part of really positioning us to be able to do just that. Partnerships were deepened and formed that came out of all those particular efforts, and they continue to grow and be sustained to this day. The next year's luncheon in 2021, we welcomed the Reverend Dr. Starsky Wilson, the CEO of the Children's Defense Fund, who lifted up freedom schools that are now thriving here in our town through lots of good work right within this room. In 2022, our board chair, Carmen Palmer, interviewed Kelly King, former chair and CEO of BB&T, now Truist, who lifted up the innate human desire to find purpose and happiness in all that we do. And then just last year, Kelly Easton from Action for Equity interviewed Tricia McManus, our school superintendent, who is here today somewhere right here in the middle, and many of her senior staff are here with us. Latita Smith, the president of the Winston Foundation, and Dr. Laura Gerald, president of the Kate B. Reynolds Charitable Trust. Their powerful stories last year and reflections about common and shared passion that every child in Forsyth County would truly flourish from cradle to career still sits very strongly with me and perhaps with you from the thoughts that got shared that day. As we have done since the very first Christmas for the city back in 2008, our gatherings bring together a wide and diverse, and as one of our board members likes to say, eclectic group of, and network of people. Hopefully you've already experienced the power of that as you've entered this room and met with people you might not have expected to see, interacted with those at your table. For our community to thrive, it's going to take all of us, and these moments matter. The relational moments and updates that were shared as we come together across many sectors and networks, some inspiring and stretching stories and content that will be shared by our speakers in just a few moments, and the renewed commitment that everyone in our community would thrive together, no exceptions. My name is Chuck Spong, and I am the Executive Director of Love Out Loud. An honor and frankly a calling. I've been humble enough to be able to give the best hours of my week for 16 years since 2008 and the start of the first Christmas for the city. So how does it all fit together? That is always kind of an elusive goal. I know many of you think about those things. How do all of our fragmented or silos efforts, how do they relate to one another? Recently, a wide coalition of local community leaders has been learning about a framework of frameworks, a kind of community master plan called Thriving Together. We won't take the time to process it fully, but just from the graphic you see on the screen, you can easily grasp kind of the areas of passion and issues around the circle. But anytime we do this work, those are really the common things. Transportation has finally been lifted up as one of the more important ones we often kind of leave off a list like this. But right in the center is what I want to highlight for you. The idea of belonging and civic muscle. The framework, as well as all kinds of large and small group gatherings we've had since we started talking about this a few months ago, has brought tremendous moments of clarity of how each of us fit into the beautiful tapestry that is community and how we must align our efforts for the benefit of every member. Using the language on the screen, those two functions in the middle are just fundamental: belonging and civic muscle. Other ways you might describe this would be that belonging is that deep sense of connection and community among us, and civic muscle is simply you, me, every person in our community, our ability to do together what none of us can do alone. Or even more simply, everyone has a sense of connection and contribution. I want to thank Bobby, our speaker, for giving me language for that this morning. You'll get to know Bobby, and he's been a tremendous gift as he will interview three of our local stories. Related, as I heard the conversation I was in this morning, it brought me back to June 2018. The Kate B. Reynolds Charitable Trust had done a community report called The Precise Story, a strategy for creating a more inclusive economy. There was a moment at Forsyth Tech where Dr. Anita Brown Graham of NC Impact gave the community readout of the report and 10 overarching themes. When she got to theme number 4, it lit my fire, and it feels like it relates to that idea of community belonging and of civic muscle. They declared in their research that residents of Forsyth County have few opportunities and relatively low motivation to mix it up with people who represent different demographics of race, zip code, income, and generation. I'm going to read that again. It's very, very sobering, you think? And this was 2018, and we all are experiencing a fair amount of divisiveness, and what do we do about that as a community? So back in 2018, their conclusion was residents of Forsyth County have few opportunities and relatively low motivation to mix it up with people who represent different demographics of race, zip code, income, and generation. After Dr. Graham Bell read that off, I ran up to Joe Crocker, who at the time was the Trust's local impact officer over Forsyth County, to say, Joe, that is exactly the work that Love Out Loud and others are doing in this community. Even as it can be hard to name and quantify that aspect of relational connectivity, trust building, and bringing cohesion across a wide network of people, I and others who do similar convening and connecting in our community have been stirred by the Thriving Together framework as a tool to help us understand how we all fit together better. Just this morning, Bobby, our facilitator who I just mentioned, met with a group of leaders and lifted up that same, as he called it, superpower. A key to this work of how all those individual issues fit together is the connection across difference and the steps we are taking to hold space with one another and to create a true sense of interdependence. I hope you felt that as you entered this room today. There are other spaces like this, but it is nothing short of remarkable when we get together a group that represents so many different aspects of our community. And on top of that, many of you wear many different hats. How does that all get woven together at both, at your individual level, at the organizational level, and then kind of at the higher network community level? In just a few moments, you're going to hear more from Bobby Milstein, who I've been referring to, about this overall approach, as well as some amazing stories of transformational work in creating collective community stewardship. In our prep work, I have been deeply inspired by Shantae, Dr. Reina, and Drew, and believe you will not only be inspired as well, but perhaps stretched in your thinking, as well as motivated to get involved. At Love Out Loud, we strongly believe in next steps, and that's the mobilization aspect of our work. When you came in, you got a card, and on the back is a QR code. And you experience many moments where you hear a story, a talk, you hear about good work in the community or an issue. You meet people in a group or neighborhood doing good work, and it moves you. Something is stirred inside of you. One of my old pastors used to call that your holy discontent, something that really kind of rattles your soul a bit. What we'd like to do at Love Out Loud is bring our deep knowledge of the community, as well as a wide relational network, to bear in those moments to create meaningful next steps and connections to serve. So on that card, the QR code would take you to a page that the team has curated that has specific next steps related to what you'll hear today and the work that we do, and how we can hopefully be helpful to you in this work that we all have to do together, and everyone thriving together, no exceptions. Our team is honored to be able to commit our time to walking alongside all kinds of transformational people and groups, lifting up their work and looking for ways to weave it all together so that everyone does indeed thrive. Can I ask, and they always say when I do this, but I think it's helpful to kind of put a face with some of this, could the Love Out Loud board and staff in particular stand or wave where you're at, just so you kind of have a sense for anybody you might want to connect with? They're kind of mingled around, and they, can we thank them for their work? Truly, a lot of our work is very much under the hood. We don't even, I have no desire to be behind this podium right now, but part of my role is to kind of give you a kind of state of Love Out Loud in this moment, and I'm honored to do so. The team has created a brief video to give you a sense for some of what that work looks like. Afterwards, Terry Williams, a former board member who's still deeply involved in our work, will dial our focus even more into the whole idea of everyone thriving together and the importance of collective community stewardship in that process.
Transformation in our community doesn't happen overnight. It happens through connecting the dots towards more collaborative efforts, and through each individual in our community plugging deeply into the passions of their heart and working at it one day at a time, one cup of coffee at a time. It all started through people sitting down, talking about the things they're passionate about. Over time, connections were made through hours of authentic conversations, through intentional introductions, and through someone overhearing parts of conversations.
At Love Out Loud, we are connected to so many different organizations and people doing amazing work. And we would love nothing more than to help define where you fit in based on your skill sets and the things you care about, your life story, your season of life. We have this deep conviction at Love Out Loud that our community has more than enough resources to address the needs that we all care deeply about. Plenty of financial resources, in-kind resources, and yes, even human resources. The challenge, though, can be how does that all fit together and where do I fit in? Frederick Buechner says that the place God calls each one of us to is where our deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. So what are you waiting for? The coffee's brewing and we're here for it.
faces, many of which I know and some of which I don't, but coming together for a common purpose to connect, build relationship, learn from one another on this common journey to improve and transform this community. Part of that journey that makes me excited, and as we've been evaluating and looking at communities around the country that are on the move and that are transforming, there are a handful of threads that stand out, and these are things that we can all control. So one is that the communities that are on the move have this foundation of relationship and trust that has been cultivated by really hundreds and thousands of times coming together. This is one of those times. I consider this one of those inflection points in the year when we bring a lot of people together. But there are a lot of smaller times where it's a cup of coffee, where it's coming together as a group of people. Another component when these communities are successful is that humility instills the work. No one comes in the room with the answer. They come in with creative ideas, but it's really through the conversation of coming together that the grist of where should we aim our energy becomes clearer. There's also an element of we try things and sometimes they work and sometimes they will fail, and it's okay because that means we're trying things, and the next time we will actually do it better. Another feature of the communities on the move is that they are, as I like to say, both diverse in terms of race and ethnicity, but also eclectic in terms of the walks of life. And this room really represents that. A final component is that they are multi-sectoral. So CBO, community-based organizations, are working with the private sector, working with government, with schools, churches. Multiple sectors are coming together and they're doing things because to transform a community is more than any single entity can do alone. So I'm excited because this means we are spending a little more time thinking about how do we move from whatever we've been doing, although many of the things we have been doing are good and should continue, but to also challenge ourselves to do things that lead to a thriving community. So I'll quickly introduce Bobby Milstein here, and then he will introduce, or the panelists will give you some insight into them. But I got to know Bobby 3 or 4 years ago, and one of the terrific things about Bobby is he is a big thinker. In fact, he worked at the Center for Disease Control for 20 years and led big parts of what they're doing around in the United States. He sits on the National Academy of Science as well as director at something called Rethink Health, which is a nonprofit who's really focused their energy on how do we change the conversations in this country around health and specifically around what it means to be a steward in local communities, both individually and collectively. I also, but although he is brilliant, he is humble. And I think you'll see that he comes in the room believing that the power is unlocked through the conversation, and that through those powerful conversations, we can do amazing things. So with that, I'll hand it to Bobby in this cohort, and thank you again for
Terry, and thank you all for welcoming an outsider here to be part of this. I've felt the energy in this community of like the commitment to do this work, but also the curiosity to come together and have what is going to be an unscripted conversation. This is not a speech, and we're not here to deliver a single message. We're here to think together about what it means to thrive together. If we were to look at a transcript of the words that have already been spoken today, thriving together, no exceptions, would be high on the list, right? That's sort of the entirety of our organization, Ripple Foundation, Rethink Health. Everything we do exists to join with others in this sort of ancient intergenerational quest to thrive together. How do we get to a place where everybody can thrive together with no exceptions? And we don't treat that like a goal. It's like an expectation. We could and should live in a world that is built for everyone to thrive, but that's not the world that we've inherited. That's not the world that we're living in today. And so it's going to take a lot of people thinking and acting differently in order to establish systems that are really built by design to be fair and to be able to sort of unlock the full potential of what we can do and be together. I will say that the news of what's going on in Winston-Salem has traveled far beyond, right? We at Rethink Health try to listen for signals of who's doing what where across the country in this vast unfolding movement. And there is something special happening in Winston-Salem. There's no doubt about it. Lots of people in this country are turning away from each other and turning to some pretty dark instincts in many ways, but that is what you see on the news and hear, that this is the most divisive and precarious time, and it is in many ways. This is a difficult moment in our nation. But many people are also turning toward each other. They're beginning to see that the way through these testing times is to commit to each other, our interdependence, and that what's good for any of us is really going to be a wider, more interconnected way of being with each other, and to reconnect to those core principles of shared humanity. And so this idea of like thriving together is really a matter of seeing a future and also believing that we together can navigate there. And I want to start this quick panel with a very quick poll. Most people say put away your phones and just be present. I want you to take out your phones. We're going to do a very quick poll. It's anonymous. Nobody has to raise their hand or stand up or anything. If we can get this poll up. The simple question is, how much do you believe that Winston-Salem can be a place where all people are thriving together? I hope our tech team is working on this. We're going to get a little QR code. Make sure that's happening. Yeah, so grab this QR code. You can also type in a URL there, but it's a little long. How much do you believe? This is a question of faith, right? A question of confidence. How much do you believe that we can create conditions in Winston-Salem for everyone to thrive together? I'm going to let this count up as we get a quick sense of the spirit in this room. This is living science at work. Give this just a full marks for the tech savvy among you who got into this poll right away. Some of us are slower, but that's cool. We can keep this up while we think about even the findings here, right? I've never been in a room where there weren't some people who disagreed with this. And likewise, I've rarely been in a room when there wasn't more people who held some confidence that we can do this. And I'm a skeptic too. Some days I'm not totally sure we can do this because it's going to take real work, right? Systems don't change on their own. They change because the stewards, the people and players in these systems start thinking and acting differently. And that means recognizing that, the world isn't really set up for this. One of the things that got me to come here today was the invitation that all of you got. I felt it too, right? The creative power of shared stewardship. I want to read this line because it's beautiful, right? Stewardship transcends solely funding and assets, right? A lot of people think about stewardship of the resources of an organization, or stewardship of the environment, or stewardship of a church, right? We've got stewardship over things, but rarely do we think about stewardship to include the ways that we work to include our lives together, the people and places that we love, and our stewardship of an equitable, thriving future. That's the work of everybody in different walks of life playing different roles. And the genius of this session is that we've got examples of stewards in our midst. They're often unseen and uncelebrated, but this role has been an ancient role. All human societies have had people who are the ones that actually bring us out and connect us and build that belonging and civic muscle. And so we've got three faces of stewards here. The easiest way to understand what the creative power of shared stewardship is to meet some stewards. And so we wanted to begin by just thinking through what travels you've been walking through in this community. Where are you located? Who are you spending your time with? And let's use that as the way to introduce yourself, where you are, but mostly where do you spend your time, and where does that put you in the kind of landscape of Winston-Salem? So Drew, can we start with you?
Sure, Bobby. I'm Drew Hancock, and today, I recently retired from a 40-year career in the commercial construction business at Bloom Construction, but today I spend my time primarily in two places. One is at the Wake Forest Center for Private Business, where I work in a team performance framework that an essential part of that is that diverse teams have the potential to outperform homogeneous teams. And then I spend my time with a racial equity forum, groups of 6 or 8 people who meet on a monthly basis and help each other through their journey of helping Winston-Salem thrive and have a common belief that in order for our community to thrive, it needs to be a place where every one of us can thrive. So that's where I spend my time.
Dr. Reina, I'm referring to you as Dr. Reina because I think that's how lots of people see you, as our community doc. So where do you spend your time?
Sorry. Good afternoon. My name is Reina Rodriguez James. I am from El Salvador, and I graduated as a doctor, medical doctor, and general surgeon. I came to this country for personal reasons. I started working in different areas. I saw I have a lot of struggles when I was here. So I was thinking, if I haven't these struggles, probably a lot of people like me are there with the same questions and looking for the resources and information. So I started working with the health fairs. And then finally, 5 years ago, I was hired from public health and I started working when in maternal infant programs. When the pandemic started, that was Tony Logido and Mr. Joshua Swift that is there. Um, they say we don't have too much to do, and I was thinking I have to do something for the community, and they believe in me, and they gave me the opportunity to start working with Hispanic liaison emergency, and I was working with the community with COVID. We started educating. We did a lot of events. We did a lot of good things for the community, not only for the Hispanic community, for everybody. And after uh, 2 years ago, when the pandemic was started ending, I had the idea the community is still have a lot of needs, not only for the COVID. And then I started spending my time with the community as Hispanic liaison, and now it's permanent. And this morning, I was ready to work. I have my shoes here. I went to work with a different outfit and these shoes. When I came here, I told my friend Josefina that she's my partner and she's here too. And I told my friend I need to switch shoes. And I found it that I have two pairs of this one similar, but I have the same foot. So my son that he's in college, he is here and in Winston-Salem, and I call him and say, please help me because if not, I will be with my work shoes. But this is who I am. I work all the time for the Hispanic community. And I represent the public health. Now it's going to be HHS. My supervisors are there. Jasmine Harris, Cherita Sutton, and Mr. Joshua Swift.
Shantae, tell us.
Good afternoon. My name is Shantae Graham. I am the founder of Affinity Crisis Supports as well as Full Circle Mentoring. Um, you asked, where do I spend my days and my time? Full Circle Mentoring is housed in a public housing sector of Winston-Salem, Piedmont Park. And for the past 10 years plus, I have spent my time in communities that look like Piedmont Park, that are places where people have been screaming for change. They have been screaming for help. They have been screaming to the top of their lungs for people to understand their stories. And their scream sounds like that's what they feel like it sounds like. So those are the areas where people are screaming and all other people see and hear is, I spend my time in those areas. I'm here for those people. I'm here to be a voice. I'm here to bridge a gap so that people who are on the widespread other side of the empathy piece can hear the stories of the people that are screaming, but nothing is being heard. So thank you all for having me here today. I'm excited about this much needed conversation. I'm excited about the change that we together can make happen. And so I'm grateful to be here and share my stories with you all today about what Full Circle Mentoring is doing for families, youth, and the networks and connections that we can make to make Winston-Salem thrive again.
I hope you're feeling this because when you're in the presence of a steward, you don't forget them easily, right? These are indelible experiences of people walking in different walks of life. It's not a program or a project, it's a way of being. And it could be walking through, businesses. It can be out in a community that's being sort of tested with unprecedented threat. It could be in those people who are struggling every day in a system and a world that doesn't hear them or doesn't seem built for them. And so if we're going to be able to move decisively to a different future, the future that we most want, it's going to take some serious work and work that is in some ways bigger than we can imagine. And that's my question really for all of you is can you help us understand sort of circumstances, experiences you've had where you managed to do things that were just surprisingly big, that were big even for what you thought was possible? And Shantae, I want to start with you because the pain of that frustration of actually wanting other people to connect and wanting change but not seeing it, and like, are you finding ways to unlock that and turn it into action? What does it feel like?
Absolutely. So a story that kind of popped right in my head with Full Circle Mentoring. So the word mentoring is pretty much widespread, but for some people it's like, oh, they're just doing work with youth. They're just, teaching some kids or even, some adults, just the basics. But for us and for the people that is attached to Full Circle, that mentoring piece goes well beyond just the thought process of the word mentoring. Right now, as I sit here, I have been working myself and my team have been working with a family that lives in public housing. It's actually 9 siblings and a single mom living in public housing. They moved here to Winston-Salem because the eldest son, who was 19 years old, was murdered in High Point, North Carolina. So they've been here just a little under a year. This family of 9 are faced with eviction right now. And so the Full Circle staff, myself, and being able to reach out to the Action for Equity team, Full Circle partners, we have been working overtime trying to figure out resolve for this family. Because if I'm already in a city that's new to me and I'm living in public housing because I can't afford to live anywhere else, I'm told because I have too many kids that either I move or be evicted, or I figure out which 4 of my kids I have to send somewhere else to live. And so the mentoring piece goes far beyond mentoring. At this point, I am trying to dig deep within myself, dig deep within resources. I'm reaching out to Love Out Loud partners and just other people that I know, because I cannot sit in front of this mom and tell her to draw numbers on who has to leave home. In America, we talk a good talk about having that household where there's a mom and a dad, and it's the American dream and so forth and so on. Unfortunately, that's not life for some people. And you don't kick a person while they're down. I'm down, I'm living in public housing, so I'm down, and you understand that I'm down. I'm down because I have 9 kids, and it's a struggle every day to feed my 9. So yes, I'm down. I'm down because some of my kids have behavior issues. I'm very frustrated. I don't have transportation. So yes, I'm down. But you talking about kicking me while I'm down, telling me that I have to choose which children I'm going to send to live with somebody else who may not even love them the same. So yes, you understand that I'm down. So right now, Full Circle Mentoring, just one of the things that we do, and that story often sticks out to me because it's my right now moment. We're working with property management because we cannot allow this family to go through more than they already are. We're working with beds off the ground programming because what is the action? What is the resolve? Let's see if we can get bunk beds in the 3 rooms where the kids are. Everybody has their own bed. Let's make sure it's clutter free. Let's make sure that if there's a fire, everybody can get out of here. But what we cannot do on my watch or anybody else is connected to Full Circle, meaning our partners, our staff, is to kick this woman while she's down. And so these are the things that we do at Full Circle.
Let's follow that thread. How do we find our humanity in even these very tough moments, these moments when we're tested? And Dr. Reina, you guided a whole network of people through a pandemic. What was that like? How did you connect with people to rise to the moment? And who showed up to do that work with you?
When the pandemic started, there was a lot of struggling for a lot of us, especially for the people that they don't have the right information or the people that they don't understand English. I'm not talking only about Hispanic. I'm talking about a lot of different people from different countries with different religions, different culture. So those people were here and they were struggling with a lot of things. They don't know about what was happening. Uh, Sorry to ask you, do you have the picture about the poster?
Oh, I don't know if we got that. Draw it for us. Tell us what
Okay.
you see in that poster.
That was a lot of different times that we struggled. One of the time that I remember was that was the Hispanic people, the family, man is the head of the family. So they think that they are very strong. They think that they can do it whatever they want. This is the machismo. So uh, that we were working in the community and we saw the ladies, moms, and kids with face masks. Men was with not face mask, and we had to work with them. That was the second campaign that we did with the health department. So one day I was working, helping with the vaccines team, and Joshua was there, and he came and he said, "Reina, I went to compare food at Silas Creek, and that was a lot of people with no face mask." So I was started thinking when I was working with the vaccine team, how I can how we can help the community, how we can do this. So I found a poster. The man is like this, and the little boy is here, and was talking directly to the man and say, "My dad is a hero because he got the vaccine." And then I got that poster, and we added uh, the logos that we need to add it. And I started the second campaign. Probably that was around October, around December. Joshua say, "I don't know what you did, but a lot of men that I saw when I was walking to the community are wearing the face mask." So that was one of the things that I did. Not only that was not only that I did by myself. I did with my team. I did together with another people. Together we can do a lot of things. It's a lot of more stories that I have, and I created Hispanic Task Force of the Piedmont. That is a lot of crazy people like me that believe that we can work together and help the community. What we need to do is educate, is talk with the people, listen, see what they need, and we can do it together.
Yeah, I'm already starting to see the connection here, right? Like, you're feeling this, right? To wrap arms around this family, it's going to take a team, the property managers, the other people. Like, how do we do this safely and well and not betray our principles and the loving care that this family so needs, and it tests us. And another version of teamwork, right? How do we really do things where a kid and his dad, it's that relationship that's in question. It's not, you know, us in an infection. It's really us and each other that's getting tested. And I don't know, Drew, this brings me to you, because one of the things I've learned from you is that to build great things, you need teams that are going to be able to bring their best. And so what have you learning about how this team theme is mattering even in on the job?
So I'm going to give you a little chalk talk. This is my flip chart up here from a business perspective and a team dynamics perspective. But before I do that, I'm going to tell you that Bobby, we had dinner last night. Bobby asked us a piercing question last night, and it was, where in the work that you do is courage required? I'm going to tell you, what I do in the business community at the Wake Forest Center for Private Business or these racial equity forums does not require near the courage that you've already heard about from Shantae and Dr. Reina this morning. So think about that yourself. So here's my thing. How do you do great things? How do teams accomplish great things? In the last chapter of my career in the construction industry, had the good fortune of focusing on teams and talent and so on and so forth, and had the realization that teams that are composed of the same kind of people, homogeneous teams, if you will, look like this. Teams that are composed of diverse, who come to the work from diverse backgrounds, look like that. So how are we going to do great things? How are we going to do this much versus this much? This team over here, they all look the same, they all come from the same background, they're a homogeneous team. They bring this much shared experience to the table. This team that comes from a diverse background brings this much shared experience to the table. But the magic happens when you realize how to unlock all of the potential of your diverse partners. And you create that much impact. And that beats that every time. So, at the Wake Forest Center for Private Business now, and in some other formats, my partner, Dr. Will Lewis, and Tess Shaker and I teach how to do this in a business setting. But when you start thinking about this in a community setting, you see that in action. I mean, when we start welcoming others to the table, when we start broadening the circles, and we start getting 100% out of 100%, we can move mountains. We can, and literally, Bobby, you asked me this. Why are you so passionate about this? I've seen this work. I've seen when I was responsible for the buildings getting built, I was like, we told them we could do what? By when? And they're counting on us to open that facility and start birthing babies or bringing babies into the world at Atrium. But I've seen construction teams do what I literally thought was impossible over here because they tapped into all that. And I'm convinced that communities can do the same thing.
You know, I'm trying to connect this with comments that Chuck made about how do we do it in ways that stretch us across the dividing lines that we've had, right? I mean, homogeneous teams are real because people are comfortable with each other. But if we needed to do things that are bigger than any of us, how do we really do it around our shared humanity and start crossing those lines of color and class and language and even sectors and industries. What's so remarkable to me about Love Out Loud is that it is really paying attention to that, widening that circle of belonging, and then bringing more and more of the sense that we all have things to bring. But that's not just the work of one organization. That's really about sort of erasing this myth that we all need to be the same and saying we all need to bring our gifts to this work. And I'm wondering, what does this feel like to young people who are coming in, like after school, the mentoring world? What messages are they getting that are not like you have to look and feel and do the same? You can be yourself. Like, how are you seeing that message get through to kids in ways that give you hope?
So I would say that every day it's a struggle to have conversations with the younger people and some older people too, saying that it's okay to dare to be different when society or my community is showing me one thing and then I haven't been exposed to others. We actually took a group skating about 2 weeks ago. And out of 26 kids that we had at the skating ring, maybe 13 had never skated before or even been. And I'm talking about living in a city where there's 1, 2, 3 skating rings. And then some of our kids were aged up to 17 years old. And I'm saying that to say that we have to start exposing our young people to things that are outside of the quote unquote norm that they know. And that exposure starts with showing love that they've never known. Daily kids coming in the program, I mean, sometimes we have younger kids and we I promise you guys, we tell them to go home and check in when they get off the bus. Parents are coming out there like, did they make it home from school because they hadn't seen their child today? Because the child is bolting off the school bus and they're running in there. They're running in there, not because they want to do their homework, because I promise you that's a task every day too. But they're running in there because they want to see Miss Sheikah and Mr. Blue. And I'm in my office and they flying in there, Miss Shantae, Miss Shantae. And I'm like, hey, I'm coming out in a minute. They don't care if I'm in a Zoom calling. They jump in the camera like, but it's the love that covers a multitude. And so it's that exposure to the newness, the different things. And I believe that they can believe, but we have to be the adults that believe first. And each one teach one. That's so cliche, but it's so true. Dare to be different is what I tell them all the time. And I also tell them, I mean, because it just is what it is. I said, you don't ever want to be the smartest person in the room, ever. If you are, then you need to find a different room to be in. I tell my kids, you can't be the 10 paint person this big, hanging with 5 paint people all the time, this big. Because if you're a 10 paint youth, child, or parent, and this is the conversations that I have with our parents on all the time. If you're 10 paints, you can fill up that 5 paint every day, all day. But that 5 paint can never fill you up. So make sure you are depositing things into the people that are in your circle, full circle, or make sure that you are dropping enough gems to build up that 5 paint till it becomes a 10 paint person. And so we just try to continue to love on each other and make sure that they understand it's okay to be different. I was raised in public housing. From the beginning of time to my late teens, and I ran with the crew. I did a lot of things that people did in public housing, but I also dared to be different. It took me some time to get it right, but I went back to school as an adult learner, graduated summa cum laude from WSSU with a social work degree. the same young black kid that had a Jerry curl that everybody picked on. And I hated to go swimming because the stuff got in my eyes. But the same young black kid that was counted out long before people counted out, I was counted out because I was young, black, and from the projects. And so I tell my kids, dare to be different, because being young, black, and from the projects don't mean you can't be great one day and be up here with Bob and sharing your story.
You know, it's the clock is always the enemy of these things, and it's just a good reminder that this work is urgent, but we need to do it with presence and with patience and with love. And I have a teacher in this work who says we grow in the directions of the questions that we ask. And so, you know, for the skeptics in the room who've said, are we going to thrive together? Can we do this? My question is, maybe if you've served 3 faces of stewards here, there's 300 others in this room, 3,000 beyond. If we can begin to make that the thing that we make visible, make valued, invested in, who knows what we could accomplish. On the other hand, if we don't do those things, we're going to get more and more of a future that we don't necessarily want. So I don't know, honestly, what the answer is, which Winston-Salem is going to show up to these testing times, but that's my question. You know, how is the story of Winston-Salem going to grow, and can the rest of us in the country learn something that you know that you're already doing, but not necessarily doing at your full scale, at the full potential. So that's my question I'm leaving with. I do understand that we want to get out of here in the next few minutes, and there's some closing things. So I'm just going to ask if you guys have like a lightning sort of sentiment about, back to your question of the courage. What kind of courage is it going to take to be able to break from business as usual and do things that might actually open the way to something great in the future? You can start, Dr. Reina. Like, what kind of courage do you think we need that we may find in the years ahead?
Good. And hear the voice for those people that they don't know, don't have the information, people that they cannot speak by themselves because they don't think they have rights here. Listen the community, see what is the need, and make connections with the other ones. Together, all the people that we are here, we can do it. I believe that we can do it. Hispanic liaison is making connections. We are the bridge between public health and the community, and with you.
You want to say that in Spanish too?
Enlace Hispano es el puente para que nosotros podamos conectarnos con ustedes y con la comunidad.
Gracias. No,
I can't do mine in 2 languages. Listen and be uncomfortable.
Shantae.
So I'm gonna go back to what I was telling you guys last night, because it's just the truth. When we were at dinner and you asked us this question, and I said, I think we all share certain factors alike, and that is we hate to be uncomfortable, right? And so the level of courage that we need to move things forward in an upward trajectory is to make being uncomfortable a thing.
Yeah.
Like, get out of our comfort zones, because our comfort zones are probably at our homes, in our fuzzy socks, in our beds, flipping a remote, where we know we are safe, where we know we feel safe. The problem a lot of times in our community is not where we feel safe. We have to stop being comfortable and move into areas where it may be challenging. I may not understand. I may not be the smartest person in the room. It's fine. It's okay to be uncomfortable. So my thing, what I would say that creates courage, are the courage that has to be used to move us in spaces that we need to be in, to make Winston-Salem, North Carolina thrive, as well as every single child and family, every community across the board. Is make uncomfortable make being uncomfortable a thing.
There you go. So
So, so Bobby, I'll add one more. We're going to take this show on the road. We've only known each other for 12 hours now. This is comfort. If you're going to move mountains, you got to get uncomfortable. Thank you, Shantae.
that's right. So let's go to those uncomfortable spaces. Put on your comfy shoes to do it, and make sure you hear the silent screams are the reason to do this, right? We do not want the silent scream. We want the joy of what it is to thrive together. So thank you all. Thank you to Love Out Loud for organizing this session, but it's really you and the people who you touch that are going to make this future come true. Thank you all for
Thank you, Bob.
And I think we're going to finish this session. Who's our closer here? Oh yeah.
I'm gonna ask Reina, can I borrow her shoes?
Let's all.
Please.
I think for these panelists, we need to give them another round of applause. Chuck gave me the audacious task of coming with the ask. Now, I'm a licensed and ordained Baptist minister, and so we believe often in church and participation. So I'm going to ask you all just to do one thing for me. I'm going to read something, and every time I hit the word love, I just want you to say out loud. Can we do that? If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, if I have faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not boast. Love is not proud. Love does not dishonor others. Love is not self-seeking. Love is not easily angered. Love, it keeps no record of things or wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. Love always protects. Love always trusts. Love always hopes. Love perseveres. Love never fails. We have an opportunity today to make sure that those were not just words that you said. As we say often in church and in other realms, don't talk about it. Be about it. Be about it. Be about it. Be about it. On your tables, you have your be about it. What you'll find is a card and a separate card that has the opportunity to pledge. Some say that, you don't want to give till it hurts. I say, don't give till it hurts. Give till it helps. There are resources in this city that can change the trajectory of Winston-Salem if we want to. If we want to. Love Out Loud does so much great work in so many different spaces, bringing together people just in a cross section of those who are in this room right now, who might not ordinarily be in conversation with each other, but you're here now. Love Out Loud makes it possible for us to do this in our communities in an incredibly impactful way. You can fill out the cards and put information regarding credit cards and things of that nature. You can actually scan. And then once you have your card filled out, your pledge card, you can put into the purple envelope that's at the center of each one of these tables. And if you choose not to do that, Rooney Craig will be right outside collecting the cards to put them in envelopes. This has been a wonderful time of gathering. Let's see if we can make it a wonderful time of giving so that we truly know that love never fails.
Well, did you enjoy everything today? Let me bring this down just a little bit. I'm a little shorty. Yeah, let me bring it down. Let me bring it down. We are so delighted. I am yours truly, Gloria Samuels, and I serve on the board of Love Out Loud. And I serve on the board because I believe in what we have been assigned to do and to be. If you're going to see Jesus in the earth, he has to use somebody. Change is never easy, but change is necessary. And if you're going to make a difference in a community, you got to be bold enough to stand against the ignorance of change. And so I listened today, and this is something that I do every day. And I'm thinking, one day we're going to get this right. And the only way we're going to get it right is that we love one another. And loving one another will always make a difference. It doesn't mean I have to understand you. It means I have to respect who you are as a person. So we're so delighted. On behalf of Chuck and the entire board, thank you so much for what you have offered here today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're getting ready to pray and pray you out, and I'm going to pray that the Lord anoints your pocketbook. I'm not a Baptist preacher. I'm a community preacher. I pastor a community church, so I know the heart and the needs, and I need to get with you because my church is right over the hill. And so whatever we can do as a community church, we're willing to help. Amen. So I'm getting ready to pray, and I'm telling you right now, I'm going to pray for the Lord not to let you get no sleep until you write the check he wants you to write. How about them apples? We appreciate y'all. We appreciate you. Let's pray. Gracious Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together collectively as a people that you would desire to use to make a difference. We believe that you can use us to be a light for the entire world, not just for this country, but for the world. We know, God, that there's nothing you can't do. And many times for you to do what you need to do, you don't need an army. You need a Gideon. And so we thank you right now. We thank you for Love Out Loud being a Gideon, and those that's connected in this community being part of that smaller army to make a difference and the win for the whole sake of a nation. God, we give you thanks. We give you praise. Bless every heart. Bless every heart to be in tune with make changes that will make a difference. Don't allow us to be comfortable in humanity. Don't allow us to be comfortable with what we see and know we can help make a difference. I pray right now in the matchless name of Jesus that as we depart from this place, we dare not part from your presence. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. God bless you. Thank you again. Greet somebody and let them know. Good to have you.